It's a terrible solution.
Yeah,
but it is a solution.
what's that?
It's going to sleep.
Yeah.
Wait, did it record?
I don't know.
See a flashing red light?
A vacuum machine. This is it right here.
Excuse me. Hi guys. So we're a little bit late to the party, but we're going to talk about NUS and their orientations. So every year before university starts in Singapore, you know, we all have the orientation. So it's either like a day where you just walk around, talk to people, like my school, or it's a full-on camp where you play games non-stop around the clock and pretend to like everyone for a few
So
days.
everyone wears exactly the same vest top and those tiny little shorts.
And they run around screaming the same thing that doesn't really make sense half the time.
Yeah, with no alcohol involved as well.
Yeah, so orientations are like sober people
Very
trying to have fun.
culty, in a way.
It is a cult.
Thing is, every year that it happens, for those of you who aren't Singaporean and don't know about this, there's always some controversy around it. Certain games that they play which seem to be a bit sexualized, there's some of the chants which are a bit suspect. This has been going on for 10 years now. Since 2006, these things have been happening.
Mm-hmm.
But finally this year, they started to write about it.
So the most surprising of all newspapers reported on this first, the new paper.
It's like their first genuine bits of journalism in years is about this. I mean, even then, it wasn't the best article, but it was pretty alright.
It got more of the word out.
Yeah.
And even better, the second site to report on it was another great news site in Singapore, Mothership.
BuzzFeed Light.
Stupid BuzzFeed. Yeah. But Mothership reported on it, then the major newspapers in Singapore started talking about it, and the Middle Ground finally wrote a really fantastic piece about it, though it was a bit late. Everyone on the internet in Singapore just started going batshit insane about it, with two camps being really distinct. A being, hey, you know what, stop these games, they're all rapey, stop everything, stop the games, we're gonna have really, really safe orientations, it's all a safe space and blah blah blah. And the other side of the camp is, no, fuck off, if you don't want to play the games, go somewhere else, say you don't want to join. Find that both arguments for both camps can be pretty valid, it's just that it's become really extreme.
It's like every argument on the internet ever. You have to fall into two extreme sides with no compromise in the middle, because that's just not what you do. And any valid arguments either side had is lost in the sea of vitriol which we got.
Oh yeah, especially if you saw NUS confessions page, right? People were just, obviously most of the people who wrote in were very obviously guys, and they're very upset about it.
It's always guys who, you know, get very upset about other people being upset. Isn't that
Yeah.
a very worrying trend?
It is. So a lot of guys were pretty upset because they're like, hey, why ruin the fun? This is our tradition in NUS. Come on, we need these sexual games. I've not seen a valid argument yet, but apparently they need it.
That was the first reaction. Then we got the second reaction, which was from NUS itself, which
Best reaction ever.
the most Singaporean of Singaporean reactions. We don't understand it. It's slightly scary. People are upset.
Ban it!
Ban it.
Ban it!
Just go and get it.
Like NUS just looks at it and goes, oh my god, sex games, what do you do? Ban!
Even the way that was done was really shoddy, because there was a statement from the NUS Students' Union. They basically said, we're really sorry, this is beyond our control, we weren't even consulted. Which is both a damning indictment of the student union and of the university itself. Because, you know, the student union has just pretty much admitted that it serves no purpose whatsoever if it's not even consulted when it comes to student activities. And also, the university doesn't care about the students' union. It's really just there to satisfy some little itch. It's most figurehead of figurehead positions.
It's really kind of sad.
So for the first time in quite a long time, there's been no orientation week at NUS, which some people are very, very upset by.
I mean, they do, I wouldn't say all camp organizers would want to put these sexual games in. It's always that loud minorities like, hey, come on, have fun lah. But they do put in a lot of effort to try and like have fun with the freshies and whatnot. There is a lot of effort. Like, I don't know about university because like, I'm just in the arts college here, LaSalle, right? But in polytechnics in Singapore, I know they start training for these camps like 6 months prior to it. And before these like actual freshie camps, the group leaders themselves, GLs, right? They will have like the starting camp and then the refreshment camp and then another third camp to get themselves really hyped up. And then they'll finally have 6 days straight of camps. So a lot of effort is put into these camps. So I can understand why the students were upset.
So basically, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, like currently right now, in the aftermath of the ban, they're still talking about it. And because there's been some distance from the initial gut reaction, more insightful things have been said. For example, someone shared with me yesterday an article called I'm a Camp Survivor. And it's from someone who went to university 15 years ago. And they went to, I think it was actually Shears Hall. That's the big infamous hostel for NUS, the one which has the most extreme games. And basically she explains the boot camp from Full Metal Jacket, pretty much was what she went through. And the end of the article is saying that she was telling her uncle, it's okay, I need to go soon, because she was afraid of spending too much time talking to her own family member and will get shouted at by a senior. So her uncle said, pack your bags, let's go. And as she was leaving, her two friends said, but why are you going? Like, this is a test of character, we'll be stronger afterwards. And then one of her friends said, if God didn't want you here, why did you put you here? Religion, whatever. And so she dropped out, then she went to law school in the UK. And their orientation is, if you want, we'll go somewhere, there's some tea and biscuits, talk to people. A bit later, we're going to crack open the wine, we'll see what happens.
Orientation in the UK.
Oh yeah.
Teas and biscuits.
So right now, all orientation events for NUS and just NUS have been suspended. NTU, I'm not sure if NTU even does the same thing.
It is pretty sexual as well, but NUS is the most notorious one.
Which is funny because that's also the most highly regarded university. There's one quick thing I want to mention, which is I feel like a lot of people were very vitriolic and keen to attack NUS because it is NUS. Because it is this really highly ranked, very prestigious institution. I mean, it's now in the top 20 universities in the world.
Ooh, go NUS.
Yeah, I think it's either number one or very close to number one in Asia.
Yeah.
It's beating out Japanese universities. It's now seriously high up. It's got fantastic research things. They actually got really good professors. It's a really damn good university. So there's an element of elitism which goes on. This is definitely the case in the UK, and I feel like this does exist in Singapore as well. You don't like people who are more successful than you, as on principle, especially those who seem young and don't deserve it. So any possible way you can find to bring them down, you use that.
I mean, it is NUS, so I do kind of expect them to have better management, because obviously being one of the best universities in the world, I'm pretty sure they have a ton of funding, especially from the government. So I'm sure they could afford someone to better manage these student unions and these orientations.
But then we talk about how do we administrate that, because it is very much a student-run thing. And we already have a problem in Singapore with boys. They go through school until 18, where it's very much, rote learning, jumping through the hoops. Then you have 2 years of army training. You're told when to wake up, you're told when to go to sleep, you're told when to do this, that, and the other. And then suddenly you're in this place where you have unlimited freedom to do whatever. It's pretty frightening already to be thrown into that. There's no slow delineation. So having these camps where it's entirely student-led, that's very good for certain people to learn how to take initiative, how to take management roles, and then to have the the self-administration. They have more important things to do, by the way. To have them have to jump in all the time and say, you can't do this, you can't do that, these are the guide rules, blah 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 blah. It's extra interfering in a place where you don't have much freedom to do what you want.
That's true. Now, one thing I was discussing with a childhood friend of mine about these orientation camps, right? Because I'm very in between the two sides of the arguments. Because I do think you shouldn't have these games because it's an orientation. It's not some kind of sex camp where you're trying to look for your life partner or something. You're trying to make friends, so why do you need a sexual tension there? But on the other hand, I'm the sort of person that if these games do happen, I wouldn't give a shit if everyone thinks I'm a prude. I'll just be like, yeah, fuck off, I'm not going to play this game, and I'll just walk away. So I'm very in between. So I was discussing it with her. Having disclaimers everywhere before you even sign up for the camps. So before you sign up on a site or whatever they use, they would just have this really long disclaimer going, these are the games they're going to play. And then just list every game out and talk about each game in extreme detail before allowing the person to sign up. Extreme detail, literally extreme detail.
I suppose. But then there's also the thing of, it's very easy for you to say because I think you're slightly ahead of your peers.
Aww.
In terms of being able to look at this big popularity thing and say, I don't need this. I am able to do my own thing, so screw that. I think for a lot of people that it's not so simple. A lot of people feel like they need to take part in these things because otherwise they're never going to make friends ever. Because if this is something you've gone through school all the time, and I think it's also a question of language because people still refer to university as school.
Yeah.
It's not school, it's university. It's a very different institution, it's a very different learning system. But you calling it school, you're not changing that in your headspace. So when you see things like camp orientation, you're thinking along the terms of JC, in terms of secondary school, of camp orientation, this is shit that I need to do, otherwise I'm going to be ostracized for my entire year.
Well, I definitely understand that. Like, people do want to find their squad in orientation. It's just that, yeah, the disclaimers to me seems like the most, like, in between of the two camps. I mean, it does kind of suck when people look at me and think, oh wow, she's a prude, she doesn't want to join these games. I have my own morals, so if I think these games are wrong, I definitely will not join in, even at the risk of being called a prude by everyone.
Even when I came to NUS for exchange, I had no interest in it whatsoever because I hate huge groups. I can't stand it.
Same.
It's just horrible. I make my friends by the people I sit next to in lectures, by the people I live with, and the people I go out drinking with. You will eventually find people you are going to like. So I don't see the appeal for it. But again, I also realize this is me. I come from a very different culture where orientation shit was always a forced thing which no one particularly enjoyed and took the piss out of. No one actively went in enjoying these things. That was my understanding of what orientation is. Unless there's alcohol involved, people don't care.
I think, like, from a Singaporean perspective, like, honestly, I don't really understand why people find fun in these orientations, because I signed up for one in poly thinking I would make genuine friends. But from my own perspective, it felt really superficial, like these kind of extremely organized camps. Because I was cheering cheers I didn't care about. I was taking selfies with people I didn't give a shit about. And I don't remember most of their names, really.
That always happens.
But there are people, like, actually most people would enjoy feeling that camaraderie or like feeling like they belong somewhere, especially when they go into a completely different system like university, where it's all new and scary. So I do understand that people find solace in like having so many freshies with them, being like, yeah, we're part of this empire. Ooh, this is our home.
Empire.
That's what they usually call these kind of like teams.
Really?
Yeah, so people like having that comfort of thinking, hey, this guy was in the same team as me, so we're friends, kind of, but not really.
Yeah, in NUS, they have neighborhoods, people who lived on campus. They would live in different towers. And then when I was in one of the towers, I kind of got drafted into one of the neighborhoods, which was the black neighborhood.
Actually, why do you think people really need these like sexual games in orientation?
Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of things. One thing which we hinted at was the role of NS, National Service. So before university, it's absolutely required that even if you have a physical disability, you still have to serve in some way.
Yeah, except if you have a mental disability, like if you're depressed and have like BPD and all that, apparently now they'll just tell you like don't go to NS.
Really?
I forgot what PES this is. I don't know what PES stands for. Like I don't know the army talk, but yeah, I met a few people who skip NS completely because of depression and whatnot. But yeah, so what NS is besides 2 years of army, more specifically, is 2 years of just guys, then no girls for like the straight guys in camp. So obviously if you're a straight guy in Singapore who's like Singaporean and you have to go to NS, 2 years, all guys and no girls, a lot of tension's gonna be built up in you, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a whole thing about, you're already sorted into regiments and battalions, and you've got all this delineation into groups and these arbitrary things. These are people you have to care about, even though you've only met them now. You're going to have to potentially lay your life down. Sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. But yeah, the whole concept of the military, that's what it's there. It's meant to be all for one for all, blah, 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 blah. So you still have that mentality after it's been, literally smashed into your head for 2 years. That's still kind of rattling around in your head when you get there. So that's that aspect. You also have the sausage fest, oh my god, I really want to get laid, I'm 20 years old now kind of mentality, which somewhat, not all, but some are going to have, which doesn't help because there is a lot of Western entertainment which happens here. And if you've ever watched a American university movie,
yeah, sex just everywhere.
A la American Pie, a la Animal House,
Basically,
Revenge of the Nerds.
Basically just sex in university. So that's what they see when they watch Western media.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not wrong in certain institutions, but that's not necessarily what people want to have here. And it's like, because, sex is a very taboo subject, I feel, in a lot of the Singaporean education system, it's not very well expressed or kind of explained. Like, that's one thing I definitely felt from talking to certain people. My wife went to a Catholic school. Talk was there very much of, it was actually slut shaming teenage girls.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much.
basically. I was in Catholic school too, and all they do was slut shame. Like, it would be our fault if we didn't say no hard enough. It's that kind of nonsense.
And so you have these two conflicting mental processes happening in your head. No healthy sex conversation happening, I think, up into the point of camp, where suddenly you don't have adult supervision. You do have free reign. You do have these kind of outside influences and ideas of what it's meant to be, and you're able to get away with it because you are in a position of power, which you've not been before, seniors, where you're able to kind of like play and twist with the juniors. Some people are going to be really into it because it's playing to a fantasy, and others might not be, but they really want to fit in. They really want to make friends.
Which is, like, the second part. That's the part that has gotten so many people upset about. Because so many girls, like, I mean, there are going to be girls who enjoy these sort of things too, but so many girls have spoken out, and they're not comfortable with it. Yet, so many guys, not all of them, of course, but generally most guys, right, are very upset by people wanting to take away these games. I wouldn't know why, but my hypothesis is that they're worried that they can't get laid in real life, so they need this orientation to get laid.
And
guys got no game.
well, I think that's also, I think it's just a problem here. It's a problem everywhere. There are always going to be people who don't know how to healthily approach someone and achieve consent. There was one thing I saw on Mothership which was truly awful.
Oh god, that guy. So one guy was trying to ask a girl he didn't talk to for 2 years. He met at the orientation, right? And he was just trying to be coy about it, going like, have you been bedded before? Can you help me? Because I don't know how to please a girl.
Like, can I bed you eventually? Like, dude,
The girl said she had a boyfriend and she was engaged, right?
First it was, I'm not really seeing someone, I'm seeing someone, I'm engaged. That was also the progression which was happening.
Yeah. And the guy was just like, oh please, just one time. I look at your photos on Instagram, your bikini is like so good.
And I think there was also like an underlying thing of, if you're putting pictures of yourself in a bikini up on Instagram and Facebook, you are inviting this kind of attention.
No, you're not. You're just like, you know what? If you have a fit body, you want to show it off, go ahead. I'll feel jealous as hell, but go ahead, show it off. But it's not an invitation for guys to want to fuck her. She just wants to show off how fit she is, because I'm pretty sure the girl must have worked hard for a fit body.
Well, even if you're not fit, more power to you if you want to, put a picture of you up there in a bikini, or fuck it, even in underwear if you're really into it.
It's just body pride, and then it's not some fucking invitation like to guys going, here's my body, sex me up, yo. No, it's not.
Sex me up.
No, it's not. Like, seriously, unless someone goes like specifically on Instagram, guys, sex me up now. No, it's not an invitation for sex. If a girl says multiple times that she doesn't want to have sex with you, she does not want to have sex. You don't have to keep asking her, would you bed me? Would you like let me bed you?
Yeah.
No. Ugh.
We're getting slightly off track here.
I'm sorry. It's just one thing I really hate about sex education is how the girls are always told we have to know how to say no loud enough. But the thing is, like, guys need to learn how to read the situation as well, because it's gonna be awkward for us to just like stop things completely, right? Guys need to know when girls are really uncomfortable with things. Usually, the girl will probably make a sound like that's
or like shy away, kind of like be hesitant, and part of that might be shyness. Some of it might just be like just unsurety, but deep down that's what they are just not trying to do about it. But again, it boils down to not having the right conversations when you're young, and it is I think that these sex games is a bad way to say it, sexualized camp games are indicative of a kind of mentality certain people have about sexual relations.
I'm pretty sure these mentalities are just by one very loud minority. Loud, horny, desperate minority. But yeah.
But even if it is a vocal minority, there's enough of that minority to say that even if it is 5 to 10%, that's a worryingly large percentage of people to be having that kind of mentality.
There's just one point we also want to bring up about being an adult and saying, no, I don't want to join these games, right? I was actually thinking about how, why not NUS, right, before all these stupid camps happen, have one really long fucking lecture about consent and being open to sex, but at the same time respecting your own body. There are girls who can stand up to these camp games like me. I'll just probably walk away, right? There are girls who are so scared of walking away because, like, A, it might turn guys off because hey, they don't want, these girls are a bit more conservative. But we need to learn about how, yes, there are people who are going to be really sexually open at this age, and good for them. They can express themselves openly. They're not ashamed of being like physically open about these sort of things. But there will still always be conservative people. We need to have a talk about how we need to respect them and their beliefs. Yeah, that was the point.
Yeah. I think there's also the thing of a lot of people have this expectation that they are going to find their future partner at university. It's not something which is told to them, it's not something which is implied, but it is in the zeitgeist. This is not something that is hard and fast, this is just what I have learned from speaking to people. That there is this expectation of, you know, you're going to go to university, you're going to find someone. If you have not found your true love, you'll find someone who will do by the time you graduate. You'll start seeing each other. Then when you're in your mid to late 20s, when you have enough money, you get married, you'll get your BTO, you'll start popping out kids in your early 30s because, you know, you have to fit this exact program. That's that expectation. There needs to be many different talks at different levels. I think that having this lecture about consent and US, it's far too late to be having
definitely. This. Did they teach abstinence to you guys, or
no,
just condoms? Or,
well, not just condoms. They talked about
the multiple
different forms of contraception. Like they said, condoms are the best way of preventing STDs. The best ways of pregnancy are the pill, the IUD. Like they talked about these kind of things without judgment, without saying like you are a whore for doing this. Like this is what certain women do.
Because, okay, let me talk about how I had my sexual education in secondary school.
Yeah.
My secondary 1 teacher was a very religious asshole in my secondary school, Sec 1. And because like he's extremely religious, I think he was trying to push his religious propaganda on us. So like during one of his sexual education talks, right, he just went to the front class and he was like, sex is a beautiful thing that's supposed to be shared with you and your life partner. And oh god, it was ridiculous because he even made a slide full of pictures of him and his wife at the wedding. He showed some stupid blog he made with his wife, this private blog between them, where they'll message and write about their days to each other, which was kind of sweet, I guess. About like while he was in NS, and he was talking about how he met his wife at JC and they stayed loyal and they were completely abstinent. They had this like purity ring or whatever, and then they married each other with the holy religious thingy with God and whatnot. And that was like what I remember most about my sexual education in secondary school with that guy. And the whole time it felt like he was slut shaming. He was like, girls, you need to save yourself for your one man in life. You're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to do that. You cannot ruin your purity. This is all for God. And, you know, being someone who really, 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 really does not believe in God, the whole time in my head, like in class, I'll just be sitting like this. You're full of shit. My face would just be like...
And, you know, to wrap it up along those lines, abstinence teaching does not work.
It makes things worse because girls will start feeling guilty about themselves.
But even the ones who don't feel guilty and, you know, want to do it anyway, they're not going to be equipped with the right knowledge to be able to combat it. Take a look at the United States, for example. Look at the places where it's focused on abstinence-only teaching in schools. That's mainly the Bible Belt.
They have higher pregnancy rates.
Guess also where the highest level of teenage pregnancy is. Huh.
The most religious places that teach you to have abstinence and whatnot. Look, we're humans. I'm asexual, so actually all the sex stuff does not apply to me because I'm completely indifferent to it. But people do have their needs. Girls, surprisingly, like, attention guys, girls do get horny too. Not me, but girls do get horny too. And girls will have their needs, okay? So why not, instead of teaching people to abstain and torture themselves, why don't you teach them ways of not getting pregnant? Because no one wants to have a kid at such a young age, okay?
Thing is, we need to change how we talk to kids about this, because then we wouldn't be having this problem with young adults in university, where you should know better. In Europe and in America, a lot of sex does happen in university, like a lot of it. For the most part, it's fairly consensual. It's all stuff. I am 19 to 21. I have 3 years where I'm in this grace period where I don't have to worry about mortgages and finding a job, and I don't have to do well in school, kinda, but it's a bit more free. I can find myself, and that's sometimes a part of someone's journey. It's finding yourself sexually. You have the chance to, see who you're compatible with, who you're not compatible with. You can have your funny one-night stand stories. You can have your walk of shame stories. Those are character building, but they should not ever be forced on someone. And whilst this is not quite the same thing as what's happening in the camps, they could very easily lead to those problematic things down the line if it goes a step too far. I mean, thank God there's no alcohol in these things. Imagine if there was. So that's about it. Start the conversation earlier. Don't be prudes about it. Don't slut shame from an early age.
Actually, I want to end off with recommending you guys watching the John Oliver piece on sex education.
Yes,
I
that's a
love
very good...
John Oliver. And, I'm a
Absolutely.
huge fan of his. And whatever points he made in the sex education thing can be applied to these NUS camps, because I really do think this stems from a really, really bad sexual education.
Yeah, link will be in the
curriculum.
description.
Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.